ago, and Liz in a minute is going to review the minutes. You all have received them as well, and they are physically uploaded to our shared folder. I hope you all had a chance to review that as well. The main task of our meeting today is to review the template of how recommendations are to be made, because that will serve as a really nice skeletal structure for the work groups, the subgroups to work around. And then we're going to divvy up into our work groups based on the voting, thanks to those who have submitted their votes for our decision on priorities. And the work groups are going to begin the actual process of reviewing documents, making decisions on who else needs to be invited, and so on and so forth. So before we plunge in the work of the subgroups, Liz, do you see on the agenda you're going to be reviewing the minutes?
Yes, sure, I can bring them up. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just to bring up our meeting minutes. All right, so these are our meeting notes from the first meeting, talking through the attendees. The purpose, we talked through how to establish that the purpose of this is to establish the recommendation, and we talked through our goals and our timelines, giving the big picture of what we were working through. Key discussion items included our charter and our goals, our resource packet, and how we want to work together as a group, as well as our timeline and our methods for communications. And then we talked through some of the areas of recommendation that were already kind of leading interest areas for this group, which included social isolation and loneliness, affordable housing, transportation, access to healthcare, caregiving support, and technology integration. We identified some action items, which were to review the resource packet and identify key reports and recommendations. We're going to form subgroups, develop recommendations on those supporting information, participate in all meetings, and use our shared Google Drive. And maybe we spend just a moment talking through that Google Drive. And then we talk about next steps. And the next step here is this meeting, which we're going to be focusing on brainstorming and dividing into our subgroups based on our post work. All right. And then we kind of have some additional details that came out of that. We talked through each of these groups a little bit.
I also know that those who weren't able to attend had access to the recording. I wanted to check in with people just to make sure that you had been able indeed to find everything well, and recommend that if you're having any technical challenges, to speak up and talk to Chelsea or me so that you will not be left behind. We will not let technology bar you from fully participating in this process. All right, so next on our agenda is going over the template.
I'm sorry, before you go on, could Chelsea or Liz drop in the chat or share again what the shared Google Drive is? So I think it'd be best if we can bookmark it or something like that, so we're not always looking for that email.
Can do.
Thank you, Linda.
The other thing is we really, really encourage you to use the resource packet as your guiding document for all of this work. And you'll see the work group or the Google Drive linked on the top right corner in your kind of quick links section. So please also use that. And I'll drop it in the chat here.
All right, so next item on the agenda is for Liz to review the template for the recommendation document. So I don't know if Liz, if you want to share your screen again. I really appreciated the way you reviewed things with the SAG, and I think that can help folks as before we break out to review that, make sure that everybody are on the same page in terms of how to use that and what the different terms mean for the purpose of this work.
Absolutely. So this is that document I was just talking about, and here are these quick links. So to get to the workgroup document, you'll click here on workgroup documents. We can talk about how you can use that. And then to get to the template is right down here, workgroup recommendations template. When I click on it, it's going to pull up this document that we can utilize. So I'm going to talk through this document, which is the template that we are asking everybody to use for their work group recommendations. So some folks have asked, what kind of writing am I supposed to put together? What am I responsible for? This is what the work groups are responsible for, is developing recommendations using this specific template. So this will be kind of our guiding document as we move forward in our next meetings and in our work together. Make this a little bit. Is that okay for everybody? Hearing, I'm going to keep
This is Jane. I had a question. So when I go into the Google Drive, I see the folders and I had it already bookmarked and stuff. I see the agenda and I see the meeting minutes. But when I go to the folders on the link that was just on there, I don't have a working documents envelope or a folder. It just has the final document that has the final documents and the contact list, but I don't have a working documents folder in the drive when I click on it.
Yeah, you definitely should. Okay, we'll look at that. If anyone else has those issues, put them in the chat and we'll follow up. One of the big things that we're seeing is this drive was set up with the email address with which you applied for this process. And so we're seeing that a lot of challenges are about people using a different email address. So that's just one thing to be aware of and to check on yourself. Work email versus personal email, for example.
So it has agenda and meeting minutes in the one when I click on it.
Heard. So Jane, noted, and we'll follow up. Your list should look exactly like mine does right here.
Right, that's what I thought. I thought I was missing something.
Yeah. The final documents folder has everything that members of the public, in addition to members of this group, can see, which includes our final meeting notes and our agendas. The working documents is anything that you are going to be using as you're building your recommendations. Maybe there's things you want to share. Maybe you want to have brainstorming documents within your subgroup where you're, putting together some draft language and then working it through. Since that's not a final document, you still, are just working through it. That's going to be in your working document. So Jane, we definitely want to make sure you and others have access to that in case you have other ways that you want to share before sharing with members of the public a final version. And then everyone should have a contact list, which should help you to be able to reach out to folks that you're working with here. And again, that's an internal document because it does have your emails. We don't want to share that with members of the public. So if you're seeing those challenges, put them in the chat. And as you can see, Jonathan is looking into them. Thank you, Jonathan. Ronald, go ahead.
Yes, it's the working group recommendations template. Is that in the working documents folder?
It is not. This is separate, so you'll want to access it through your resource documents. This is our main one, but I can take this and put it in your working documents folder. I don't think we have it in there just yet.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't see it, so I was getting a little worried as to whether something was wrong on my end.
So I'll just make a copy of it and stick it in there for you guys. But that's a bit of a question for you as we're talking through this. I'll talk about the content, but then we're going to want to think through what the process is, right? Do you want to have one person responsible for the entire work group of longevity ecosystems that manages this document? Do you want to have subgroups also entering into this document? There are different ways to do it to keep organized. Do you want to have everybody take a version of it and then, on their own and then bring those versions together? There's lots of different ways that this could be done. And I think the group dynamic will help to inform what works best. So let's talk through what we have here. So the instructions are, and you'll see it's narrow and that's intentional, right? Each work group, that's us, that's everybody here, regardless of which sub-conversations we're having. Our work group should provide 4 recommended objectives for our assigned goal, which is to build longevity-ready ecosystems. Each objective should identify up to 8 recommended strategies in helping to reach that goal and answer the 8 supporting information questions using the format provided. You should use your resource packet as a starting point for that. We talked through previously creating SMARTY, and you can see the words that define that here, objectives and strategies. So really thinking through how to put this level of detail in, that they are really actionable objectives for us. Strategies may include enhancing or redesigning existing initiatives to improve collaboration, efficiency, and effectiveness, implementing systems change to build capacity of Maryland's public systems, the adoption of high impact evidence-based programs and policies, and others. That gives you some of the examples of things that we're looking for here. And our group is responsible for completing and uploading our final version of this template into the sharing platform, so into the Google Drive by November 15th. And then you can always contact us with questions. So we've got some sample objectives and strategies here. We talked previously in our previous meeting about sort of the level of advocacy we're at, thinking about this public policy level actions that the state government can take that will impact all of Maryland. And that's where we want to stay. So we just put a couple of examples here. A potential objective might be by 2030, increase the proportion of adults who are report participating in physical activity or exercise by 5%. And then one of the strategies to that might be time specific, right? By 2027, community-based organizations will work with older Marylanders to provide physical activity programming, policy, and promotion that incorporates pedestrian transit routes outlined in Maryland's Complete Streets initiatives, right? So we know that there's existing programs and policies that we're building on to focus on older adults. Another example objective here is that by 2030, health equity for historically underserved older adults will be advanced by providing better access to high quality care and improved care coordination through a minimum of 5 community care hubs across the state of Maryland. And then there's potential strategies for that. Identify health-related social needs that delay or prevent access to quality care. Create a strategy to address them through local resources, including, and it identifies some of those partners that will need to be coordinated. And we'll keep moving through. So there's another example that you can look at. So here you can see our work group goal is building a longevity ecosystem. And then here's where we will put our 4 recommended objectives when we're ready to have them in here. And then down here, we go through our strategy. So you have your 4 objectives, and then for objective 1, what is your strategy? And you can have up to 8 strategies and should identify them as short, medium, or long-term strategies. And then answer the supporting information. Now, one question we've gotten is, should I answer each of these questions for each of these strategies or each question for each objective? It's really designed here to answer these 8 questions for each objective across strategies. That might not work. Your strategies might be varied, right? They might include very different partners, very different resources. That's fine. The more information on this supporting information, the better. That helps us to formulate the narrative and the plan and really understand how we're going to move this forward and what the opportunities are. So you can see some of these questions. How does this advance equity and inclusion? What partners and resources are needed? What legislative or policy changes might be needed? What data could be used to measure this? Are there existing programs that support these strategies? How do they reflect the input and priorities of older Marylanders? And any additional suggestions that you have. And then it keeps going for each of the recommended strategies, right? Or each of the objectives, all 4. So that's the template that we're asking you to use. I will make a copy of this and pop it in the working folder, and then you guys can make as many copies of it as you want as you're working through it. And Pazit, we can think through, how you envision this coming forward from the group as a whole.
Thank you, Liz. So I'm going to, while you think of your questions, I just want to make a suggestion. I think that we will submit one document, but you see, we have discussed many priorities, and as Liz had said in another meeting, this is the beginning process. We cannot possibly address all the priorities we have in all the ways we want it to be addressed, but we need to start somewhere. And I hope that we will provide a comprehensive and actionable enough plan to move forward so that we will at least have a good beginning. So if, let's say, we will review the priorities we've selected, even if something that you really wanted is not listed there, consider the fact that we could maybe, that's something for the work group to think about, subgroup, maybe you can fold some of the other priorities in a way that would make sense for your work group, or B, just know that phase 2, you will be able to join and continue the work. It's okay. So what we're going to do in terms of this document is note that we have 4 work groups and we're supposed to meet 4 objectives. So each one of the subgroup that we are going to be divided into is responsible to articulate one of those and draft the 8 strategies. So you will have 1 page of this document, which you'll be responsible for, and then everybody will review as a group. Know that if you're not a part of a subgroup, You will have some way of offering input, but you will not have too much in the way of like saying you object to things. Whatever subgroup put forward is incumbent upon them. They've put the time and effort in developing these strategies and articulate that large objective, and you can make some tweaks, some comments. But if you're not a part of a group, that's just something that you're going to have to be at peace with to some degree. So what we've done, Chelsea, I really want to appreciate your brain and your energy in creating our voting process and then sorting through. And Chelsea will, I don't know how you want to explain that. I'm going to give you the mic in terms of explaining how we're going to be divided into the groups. And know that once we divide into groups, we're gonna do a couple of things. We're gonna just say hi again. We're gonna decide who's gonna be a lead to that group, and that lead needs to be somebody who has ease of using technology, because we will rely heavily on them to be able to be that liaison between the groups, and they can do the uploading if necessary. And that liaison is going to then be held responsible for that process. And I think we were talking about someone taking some notes. We don't need minutes. This is not an extensive document, but somebody that has some sort of a written record in bullet form. Here's what we've been discussing. For example, reports that are missing. I know Kathy had already made some good recommendation about things we might need to consider. So what else is missing? Who are the people you want to invite to your work group, and so on and so forth. So Chelsea, do you want to take it away from here?
Sure. So thank you everyone who did fill out the survey. We had some people who did not, which kind of made it a little bit hard for separating you guys into your workout groups. But initially what I did is, if you ranked your first priority, your second priority, your third priority, and your fourth priority, that's how we separated the group. So if you weren't put into your first priority because it was one of the focus areas that the majority of the group said it is not a priority, then I put you into your second priority, and then on. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. Once you get into your group, I think it would be my suggestion is that you choose amongst yourselves who your spokesperson is going to be, and then a person who is going to always hit the transcribe button within the activities. JJ, can you share your screen to show people how to hit the transcribe button?
Unfortunately enough, when you're a breakout group, you cannot do the transcribe. So that's not going to be something that you can deal with. But again, continue with the notes.
Okay, so someone will have to take notes. It can be very high level notes. You don't have to get to the point where it says person A said this, so just keep it high level. Any questions? All
Okay.
right.
So I feel I just want to check in with everybody. We have covered the meeting agenda from meeting minutes from last time. We've explained our recommendation document as the structure for this work. We're going to be going into our breakout rooms in any minute now. So any question or something you're not clear about now is the time to ask. So it might be that there's some questions that you have that others have, but then nobody's comfortable raising their hand. So Linda, go ahead.
Thanks, Pazit. I just wanted to confirm that if we know of resources that are not in the resource packet, we can definitely engage with them. We're not limited to that, and we're not looking for like scholarly evidence to back up our recommendations. We're not expected to write in detail about how we arrived at the recommendation or the objectives or the strategies. It's just the work of the group.
I think, yes, when you look at the document that Lisa reviewed, we're supposed to show what are your supporting documents. That would be your evidence, like as kind of a backup for the kind of recommendations for strategies you'd be making. So I want to emphasize, you guys have all been nominated to serve in this work group. And we are the ones that are responsible for voting and then making the actual document to become formal. For the purpose of your subgroups, if you know of, are aware of, and feel like we need subject matter experts, it's perfectly fine to invite them to attend a session or more of your subgroup. Actually, I think it would be a really good idea if you know somebody who really knows their stuff about age-friendly communities and they are not here and they're willing to donate their time and energy. I think we will just be enriched by that experience. So same goes to documents, whether it is a scholarly or a non-scholarly document. It can even be an article that's well written that can help shed light on some of the goals and objectives we're going to put forward. So this is your chance. The work group is your chance to be as expansive as you feel this needs to be, because that's why we brought you to this group. You guys know your stuff, and so you'd be able to then enrich the conversation. Yeah.
Thank you, Pazit. This question is also related to resources sharing that Linda actually asked. So say if we are in one subgroup, but we found some resources that we think might be helpful for other subgroups, what is the channel to share that? Do you want us to share with that subgroup lead, or do you want us to share with you? You share. What is the channel that looks like? Thank you.
It's a good question. I think for efficiency's sake, you would share it with the lead, but also ask that it be uploaded. So maybe other people would really be interested in what you have to share. So specifically for the process, one person needs to be responsible for receiving and making sure that that group is aware of it. But then just for everybody's edification, we'll just upload that as part of our documents. So send that to Chelsea or Liz to upload it. Actually, you can upload it as well yourself. We have all permission. So I think that's a really good opportunity for us to say, you should be able to upload documents to our folder. So anything you think is of interest, you can just do that. And then you can also send an email. So the last email I sent saying we're going to be meeting on Monday, here's our agenda. You can hit reply all, go back to this email. And if you have a message to the large group, hit reply all and say, hey, everybody, here's a really wonderful resource that I came across for your interest.
One important caveat to that sharing, which is relevant to you, Yang, and a few members of our team, is that we as state members cannot just add things into the folders because our permissions follow us. It has been vexing. So we can't, if we add something, non-state members won't be able to see it. So anybody who is not, does not have a state of Maryland web email address can do that. Everybody else, please feel free to send me and we'll upload it through our Longevity Ready Maryland one so that we don't have that issue.
I want to reiterate before we go in, if you are vexed by the technology of this, please be in touch with us because we want to make sure that you are not left behind. This is our only way of creating meetings that bring people from all parts of the state in a way that's efficient, and it offers accessibility to folks with maybe mobility challenges. However, for people with technology challenges, that can be really frustrating. We want to help you, so please speak up. Kathy.
And sorry, but I just want to make sure. So if we have interesting information, because I just attended a National Health Aging Innovation Across Age-Friendly Ecosystems, which hopefully that'll be, I don't know who else did that, but it was like fabulous. But I want to make sure that I send documents there because really it had a significant amount of innovative ideas and
That's fantastic.
Yeah, okay, so that would go right into the reply all because I don't want to overstep in any way, shape, or form, but it is a big area of interest to me. So anyway.
So some work groups have been talking by email. I have concerns about sharing too much stuff for email, but the only caveat is if you have either a great event, conference, article, resource, you just want to say, hey, everybody, please pay attention. This is something of your interest. I would strongly recommend that you just do that. I think we all benefit from sharing our knowledge and experience. One more thing. The work group's timeline is very tight and there's a lot of work to be done. We need to review all the reports, invite folks to attend, and start and make those recommendations within a very short span of time. I strongly recommend that in the breakout session, you decide on a time and date to meet before our third meeting so that you can have a chance to begin writing things down and make progress. So I think I've seen other work groups, so we've consulted with other chairs. They have begun doing this, and I don't want to be behind. We need to develop our products as soon as possible. And so once a work group, once a subgroup convenes in the breakout session, you do a little bit of like a hello, assign a person who is the lead, assign a person who writes high-level notes, and then decide on the next time you all can meet. It could be any time of the day, and then Chelsea and Liz will send you the links and set you up for that. Are we good? All right, Chelsea, how are we going to do? Are you going to just send people to the different breakout? How will they know what is the subject of that breakout? You want to explain us how you're going to do?
So I believe the name of the breakout group, I put it in as the actual focus group. So you will see engaging grassroots, facilitating relations, supporting local government, and then adopting age-friendly at the top of your screen. Is S. Gale at the options group on this call? If that's your email address? No? Okay. So not everyone is on this call. So some of your work groups are going to look very light. Pazit, how do you want to handle that?
I'm only seeing, so I'm looking at the sales spreadsheet you sent me, and I'm saying green 1, 2.
So
five.
everyone who put in adopting age-friendly communities and then supporting local government, they're here.
Okay.
It's facilitating relations and engaging grassroots. They're not all here.
Okay. Because I'm only seeing one person going for engaging grassroots hyperlocal in red in the document you sent me.
Right. And I also, because Ronald Johnson did not fill out the survey, I don't think, I put him in that.
Okay, so what we're going to do is this. The 2 breakouts that are full, you want to read out the names so people will know who goes where, or do you want me to do that?
So Carol Linehart, so for adopting age-friendly, I have Carol Linehart, Catherine, Liz Briscoe, Marcia, Maria, and Yang. For supporting local government, I have Charles, Jane, John, Norman, Robert, Steph, and Stephanie. For facilitating relations, I have Catherine Martin, Linda, and then you.
Okay.
Yes, Steph.
I think there are 2 Stephanies.
I have Steph Kari Dio and then Stephanie Archer Smith.
Okay.
And they're both in the supporting local government.
Thank you.
And then engaging grassroots is Anne and Ronald and myself.
I'm going to join that engaging grassroots.
Okay.
And even if your work group is small for now, you should still begin developing the process. What we're going to do is this. We divided people up based on the full number of this work group. However, if folks do not stay involved with us, we might need to do a little bit of reconfiguring. We still need to have these 4 groups. So we might ask some of you, 1 or 2, to switch from your current assignment to support the work of the group that's missing some folks. I apologize ahead of time for having to do that. We just need to work with the folks we have here.
So
does that make sense? Yeah.
So just to let you know, S. Gale at the options group would be in the supporting. Who's S. Gale? Did someone wave their hand? Is it their S. Gale? No. Okay. Israel Cross and MD Ryderhoff would be in the facilitating relationships, but I don't think they're on this call.
See, Jane has her hand up.
Yes.
Hey, Chesley, if you need to move me, you can move me to a different priority group. I don't have any trouble with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Jane.
And I might be better off in supporting local government since that's where a lot of my expertise is.
Who
Good point, Carol.
who did that? I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Carol.
Carol? Okay. So I can move you, Carol, if you prefer. You said supporting local government?
Yeah, thanks.
Linda, go ahead.
I'm
Lunch.
sorry. I honestly do not remember what I voted on, but I'm not feeling it for whatever group I'm assigned. So, is there anyone else on the call that's in my group? Am I the only one that's here
No.
today?
Catherine Martin is in your group.
Catherine Martin.
And I will be in that breakout room with you.
So the two of us are going to have to do the work that in other groups, 8 or 9 people are involved in.
No, there's
No.
other people that are just not on this call today. They did not make it to this call, but they are assigned to
I
that.
would,
Hold on, Chuck. There's an order. I'm going to call on you when the time with the people who went ahead of you. So Liz, go ahead.
Yeah, you can switch me around too, Chelsea. I can do the engaging grassroots or whatever partnerships. Actually, I am much more a facilitator as a connector to groups.
Okay. So Liz, I will put you in engaging grassroots.
So does that mean after you've moved those folks around, hold on, Chuck, I'm going to call on you. Does that mean that we have a more even distribution of folks? So all work groups will have a nice number of people there?
So right now, engaging grassroots has 4 people, including you, Pazit.
Yep.
Facilitating relations has 5 people, including myself.
Okay.
Who was the phone number again?
John, but then he joined.
Okay, so I need to take. Okay, so facilitating relations is myself and 3 other individuals. We had 8 people, well, 7 people, and I put JJ into that group for supporting local government, and then 5 people, well, 4 people plus Liz in the adopting.
So that's fine.
Okay, now I don't see Jen Holtz either in our group. I know she's on the steering committee, I think, but she has through AARP this huge background of information on age-friendly communities. So I don't know whether she could be asked to join, since that's not going to be my my team or my group.
Mm-hmm.
It might be really helpful to have her somehow participate in that age-friendly communities.
Okay, so I'm gonna respond to that, Carol. I want to just recognize Chuck who waited so patiently, but then we'll talk about that because I think there's a nice process to offer. Go ahead, Chuck.
yeah, I believe that I would prefer, I should say, being on the age-friendly group rather than the supporting local government, if that's feasible.
No problem.
Well, Chuck, you can just change places with me since I moved from age-friendly to government.
Yeah. And that's exactly what just happened.
Wonderful.
All right, so Carol is raising a really
Appreciate that, Carol.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Carol. If you have really valuable information, remember that we're going to have time to do the breakout and time to reconvene. So you will have a way of checking in on other subgroups and say, hey, I know somebody really good, or here is a really good resource. So we love this exchange. I don't think we can do it without it. So don't hold back. You have ideas. You know who the leads are. So Carol, if you want to even introduce Jen to the lead of the Age Friendly and say, hey, Jen, would love it if you could come and join us. I know Sean Brennan can also help with the Age Friendly. So there's lots of good, really good resources we can lean on. So I would rather that we are expansive in our offers of who should join and what we should read, rather than limit ourselves. and miss out on really important information. John, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if it helps the group, I'm willing to be moved around to different groups if that's all right. But whatever you need, it's fine.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that we will have some folks who weren't able to attend today, so we're not leaving anyone unattached and engaged. So there could be some moving around. I'm not against it, but I think once you settle in a group, there's so much to catch up on in terms of reading, reviewing, discussing. It would be difficult to bring people up to speed. All right, lots of technicalities, but it really helps when we answer all these questions at a time. So once you plunge in the actual work, you're comfortable and confident in the process. Okay, how are we with time? I think we're good with time.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. So I'll open up the breakout rooms now.
The breakout rooms, we will then reconvene afterwards. So see you soon.
Leadership of this group?
Well, I feel that I know Marcia for years, and she's headed the She headed the age-friendly group in Montgomery County for the last 5 years, was it 6?
More, but
So-
I'd rather not be the lead on this. I don't, just because of other things that I'm reading on right now. So if there's someone else willing to do it, if not, I was going to volunteer to take notes.
Then I'm
If
open
somebody-
to any other ideas,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay, well, anyone else, or Liz, does it matter?
I don't think it matters. So yeah, if you want to do it, go ahead. I think the benefit of having a lead is someone who says, yeah, I got this. I'm going to make sure that we move it forward and is responsible for it.
Okay, well, I think Peter,
Kathy, you okay with being the lead?
I am all about systemic changes. Please, 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 please. Yeah, no, so yeah, this is an area of interest, certainly.
Well, then you have my support.
Okay, all right.
Anybody else interested?
I think let's move on from that. Yeah.
I think now
We'll
move
do it
on
limited
to
time.
these. Okay, so terrific. All right, well, I had done, and again, because I know all of you have been in the industry for a long, long time and have great perspectives, there's no doubt in my mind, but I was trying to get myself in the game a little bit, making sure that, let's see, I was up to speed here. So admittedly, I don't use Google. Again,
Show a document.
let's see, it says I'm a invitation from an unknown sender.
Why don't I go ahead and give it a try?
Yeah, because I think I sent it to you this morning.
Yeah.
At dark30. Because that's when I get my best work done, in the middle of the morning or something.
I'm with you on that one. All right, pulling it up now.
There we go. So I really wanted to take a look at what systems are out there. Because when you read the executive order, one of the things we're really charged with is not only coming up with these ideas, but looking at potential funding streams. And you want to cast as wide of a net for again, looking at whatever we choose as our objectives, but really cast a very wide net of potential funders, because it's only, money and mission go together constantly, right? One does not happen without the other. So I took a look at the 4 up there: social determinants of health and their 5 domains, age-friendly, the strategic framework for a national plan on aging through the Administration for Community Living, and vital conditions, which is kind of a interesting take on social determinants of health, but one that has really got some traction with this equitable and long-term recovery and resilience at a federal level. And I really, Liz, if you move down just a little bit, they're all really interconnected. Every single one of these is interconnected, which I think is really rather exciting, because just taking a different approach on those 5 domains for social determinants of health, but what that looks like from the age-friendly communities, how that gets translated, what the structure looks like through ACL, and what the structure looks like through this, really, its Office of Development of Public Health, I believe, Disability and Public Health. Anyway, so there's a lot of funding streams out there with this, not only the John A. Hartford Foundation, but Trust for America. ACL has how many partners? Maybe 16 partners already, federal partners, and this Recovery and Resilience has 44 federal partners. So lots of opportunity for funding. But again, there's lots of a redundancy here, but it just goes to show you that the things, because I know, Chuck, you brought up transportation. That's certainly a highlight in each of these, as is housing. Yeah, housing's big too. But again, there's lots to draw on here, and there are lots of similarities. And depending on how we pitch this ultimately, lots of people should be interested in this, because we know that ACL will be interested in this. We know that multiple departments on a federal level should be interested in this, as well as foundations and trusts and such on a national level. So that was my woo, on this document. And then depending on which we can upload, but depending on how much you know about them, each document I gave a page to in terms of how that works. But Liz, if you scroll down to the 4th page, the one up from that, there you go. What I found very interesting is ACL looked at the number of states. I think at this point there are 10 that have a master plan on aging, which is what Maryland wants to do. When you look at this chart, you can see, if you can make that, maybe, I only have one screen, which is killing me. You can see about how many master plans on aging included purposeful engagement, social connection, which I think is really interesting and very telling. I don't know where Maryland will end up on this list, but it gives you an idea of where we are, what people are very much interested in. So, but that can go in a shared document for you to see. So all good stuff and all really exciting, but I think Maryland is on the right track here with policies and systems change, because we're seeing that at the federal level and state levels and in different states as well. So that's really exciting. So back to this group. We have some brainstorming to do, I think, but I'm sorry, go. Someone wanted to speak? No? Okay. So has anyone given any thought to some of the things that we might want to put forward, or what we consider to be the priorities when it comes to age friendly?
I'm not quite sure how this fits into the framework that you've set up. I've been going out in our communities in Montgomery County, speaking to a lot of senior groups about the programs and services in the county. And the 2 things kind of rise to the top in my mind. A lot of things rise to the top. All the things you mentioned are each of them important, but transportation and communication. People don't know where to go to get the information they need that might be there for them, but they don't know about it. So those are just two issues that pop up meeting after meeting after meeting that I've been to. A lot of other, obviously, health and health concerns and access to health care and so forth and caregiving. But I would say meeting after meeting, it's for people who are no longer driving, particularly, or thinking of no longer driving, getting to where they need to be.
Absolutely understandable, and absolutely that probably resonates with you, Chuck.
Yes, very much. As a matter of fact, I'm on the Taxi Cab Services Commission, and we have put forth a recommendation to use our funds, TSIF funds, transportation, which we have about $3 million sitting in the bank, to get permission to run a study that would provide debit account taxis services, individual debit accounts for taxi services, taxi cab services for every senior in the county. It's been through 2 budget processes. We need county council permission, only permission. It doesn't require the county to fund it because the money is in the TSIF fund. But we haven't gotten permission. They've overlooked it on 2 budget cycles, and it's going back again because the Taxi Cab Services Commission recommends to the DOT, and the DOT asks for the budget permission. But this would provide taxi cab services for every senior. It would get dangerous drivers off the road. Giving up driving is a tough thing for seniors, especially in this county and getting to where you want to go, when you want to be there and back is essential. Public transportation doesn't take care of that. So we're very much in favor of using taxi services for that purpose. And this would provide a means of funding it. It won't replace driving, nothing will, but it's the best alternative for individuals. And this would also fight isolation, which is a big problem. I think transportation and isolation are kind of work hand in hand.
Right.
I do want to mention that there's another work group that's part of this process called Health, Wellness, and Mobility. So Chuck, I think it would be fantastic if you have sort of an existing report or process you've put together, if we could share that with that group as well to inform their process. Because I think that's where the transportation conversation will heavily be in terms of what that
I will say this, I'm technically in another era. Call it ageism. But communication through these portals is a little beyond my immediate capability, although I guess you're never too old to learn.
Well, you have my information, so you can share it with anybody that you know that's part of the process. And if they have any documents to share, we'll just get them, make sure that they get to that place.
Okay, fine. If I can just send them to you, you can distribute them. Very good.
Sorry.
So hold on just a moment. So Liz, then obviously your guidance is to stay away from the transportation aspect then, since that's going to be involved with another work group, or what is your?
I think we should check in through the stakeholder advisory group, how the transportation is growing, how that focus is developing, so that we can make sure that they're having that conversation.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, works for me.
Perfect.
Hey, Jonathan, did you need something, or are you just checking in? All right, guess we'll find out. Oh, okay, got it. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, are we through with much of the administrative stuff? Because I have a serious question I'd like to ask.
I think we've finished it all, unless I'm missing something. Is that reasonable? Yeah. Yeah.
Could you give me a sense of how, within the framework of the issue that we have, we could meet the criteria that we have to come up with strategies, recommendations, and so on and so forth? I'm trying to think of a way of thinking to get on your wavelength. And when I was just in the abstract thinking about it, all I can talk about is get more money, get more money, get more money is the bottom line. But thinking of strategies and recommendations and falling within the parameters of each of the subsections of the report we're supposed to make, I find it difficult to see how this works, because we're not programmatic per se. So do you guys have a different overview? Because I have none.
I think we could focus on partnerships to meet some of these goals that would not necessarily require a lot of money. And I really think we should do that.
Both Norm's confusion and Carol's point resonate with me. I think it is often challenging to think about how to make something out of what appears to be nothing. But I hear you about partnership. In particular, I work in state government. Traditionally, I was working in community mental health. I saw a lot of policies that were built top down and didn't include voices of people doing local work. I think there's an opportunity here for change to think about a bottom-up approach to safe and healthy aging in our communities.
And I think about, at least in Harford County, and I know in other counties, when I was with Baltimore County, the same thing's true, that local hospitals are often a rich source of partnerships.
But I will say that they are a rich source of partnerships, but they're not necessarily a rich source of resources.
True.
So a lot of times what happens in cases where we talk about, these partnerships is that they're like, let's partner with CBOs, but then there are no, resources to support that. So it sort of taxes the system on the other end. I think there's potential there if we, can think about it in a way that how can we work together to leverage, resources that might exist or opportunities. For example, like the 1115 waiver for Medicaid.
We've had, go ahead, Norm, go ahead.
Just for distinguishing it, let's say from priority number 2, engaging grassroots, hyper-local things in community building. So we're talking about more partnerships or getting financial resources to get the causes of the local or local community organizations to the forefront. I'm trying to distinguish between us and the other 3 groups specifically.
Oh, so I thought we were the supporting local governments group.
We are. I think Norman's asking, how do we distinguish ourselves sort of, I guess, mentally?
Everything else is, the whole process is linking. Somehow
Right.
generations, linking ages, linking groups. So how do we, in particular, distinguish our group? Is it because we're really focusing on governments, organizations, which would include, I suppose, hyper-local organizations. We're talking about other collaborating, and everything else is collaborating as well. So what is the uniqueness of our effort? And if I'm off the chart, just say so.
Now, I'm thinking of an example where the Office on Aging in Harford County is partnering with University of Maryland Upper Chesapeake Health on a new project that we call a Senior Center Without Walls, that reaches out to low-income housing and provides programming. And the hospital isn't actually using money. They're providing support and staff and classes and programs that go into those facilities. So sometimes we do have to look beyond asking for money, that we can ask for human interaction with our projects.
So I hear what you're saying, though. I think it's really great for us all to be on the same page in our understanding of what we're being tasked to do. And I had some of the same questions that you're asking myself, and thinking, is it worth trying to break it down a little bit? For me, my interpretation of what it means to have targeted resources and collaborative service models, maybe different from what everybody else is thinking. And all of that combined is probably going to get us where we need to be. So for me, I was thinking in terms of targeted resources, that could be a number of different things. It could be data. It could be services, as in programs such as preventative programs. It could be services as in INR, information referral, directories, things like that. It could be a training and resources. It could be general communications about what's happening. And then collaborative service models could be some of the things we've started to talk about, like partnerships such as the no wrong door models or one-stop shops, different partnerships. I can't remember the names of everything, but the partnerships between the community-based organizations and healthcare systems. That's how I'm interpreting it. I'd be curious to hear, is that what everybody else is thinking in terms of how they're interpreting our area of focus?
Agree.
Yep. I also want to, and I'm mindful particularly of what you mentioned about how to describe this. So in working for government, and for those who are familiar with the waiver process, or about just generally people on Medicaid trying to get care, whether it's housing, food assistance, et cetera, a clarity around the processes to do so, and a clarity around the many different roles that people play in the lives of Marylanders looking to access those supports is an ongoing headache for so many local partners. Meaning that, and as us, the middle people too in state government, is getting CMS guidance that makes sense to us, and then translating that guidance to local jurisdictions is regularly something that I have found in my outreach local communities want. I would think that might fit in this category.
It does. It does. Thank you for that.
And the other piece I want to highlight too, in what you said, Steph, so I mentioned being a trauma therapist. A lot of my outreach to local communities comes in the form of support for direct care professionals, whether they're peer support specialists, INR referral specialists, local nurse assessors, say, here are the resources that can help you be sustainable in your work. And in exchange, maybe you can tell me what's becoming a headache for you. In other words, I think some of the resources that we can maybe put to the fore here are, what can we offer? How can we show that we see you as local partners? Because this is an MDOA-led, project. How do we see you? And how do we give you something that makes you think this partnership's worth it? And I know I'm being a little cynical when I say it that way, but I have found it, I think, useful sometimes.
Just one quick thought that supports that, Bob, is that we could either initiate or promote some Zoom types of learning programs for local jurisdictions that educate about how these programs work and how to best access them, some best practices, because the local governments often have no money to send people for training or even to get it, but they do have the ability to provide some time for training that helps people do their jobs more effectively. So I love that idea.
I was just looking up under the informal resources that they had in the handbook and the guidebook. The proliferation of Maryland organizations that somehow relate to everything that we're talking about is overwhelming. Is there any way of coming up with simplification of ways of how you navigate the system?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Norm.
Yeah. That is literally a big part of my job, and we haven't figured it out yet. So apologies. It's a big challenge. The no wrong door system is an example of that.
It's funny, Rob, because actually when we're thinking about who are the people we want to be part of this group, I was like, oh, this is MAP. And it's like, who are you? I didn't even know who you were, and here you are. So.
Sure. And I'm happy, by the way, to get our MAP colleagues. So MAP is a Maryland Access Point. That point of contact is through MDOA. Money follows the person, oversees the grant, because it's a flow through of money from CMS, our federal partners, to MDOA. And so I help oversee that project along with Amanda DeStefano, who is my MDOA counterpart. She would happily support this work.
It's interesting when we talk about that idea. Internally, we have had lunch and learns, and we actually had Amanda come and speak to all the professionals who do the service delivery. And just to your point, Norm, we had no idea how much was already there, and we're the professionals doing this day in, day out. So understanding what all those services and programs are and being able to know what they are, to be able to direct the community members that we're working with be really helpful.
It sounds to me as though we're really proposing to perhaps develop some programs that would be available by Zoom or technology to introduce local government folks to the resources that are available and how to best access them.
We do want to make sure that we don't get too hyper-focused on government, because the priority is governments, organizations, and leaders. So just a thought.
That's good to keep in mind. Good to keep in mind. I wonder if we think about providing these resources, virtually works for a lot of reasons, in that we have different, I'm traveling 2.5 hours tomorrow to get to St. Mary's County. It's not always easy to provide resources for our most vulnerable communities far from city centers. And I'm also hearing we can't just focus on governments. I'm thinking of our SIL partners, which John knows a lot about, but our peers in the communities that serve people directly. I want to make sure our Centers for Independent Living would get included in this.
Would it make sense to target an statewide information and referral service? Somehow being able to put components by jurisdictions or by subject areas? I mean, is that too overriding a recommendation?
So they exist in different forms. I think I'm speaking too much, so I apologize. So I'll just say this and I'll stop talking. There exist in different forms, and Maryland Access Point is a sister program to 211 in the state of Maryland, and they have a lot of databases that I also should come through, to be honest, Norm.
And I would just say that I think when you're thinking about like the education, it's actually a two-way street, because there's the importance of sort of understanding what all the programs are and things like that in the state. But then it is important also, I think, for those that
make whatever it is a reality. Hey, JJ.
So Linda, are you willing to stay on now that we've kind of
I wasn't willing to leave anyway. I just didn't understand how I was going to contribute. That still remains to be seen. I would and one of the things that the commission does, our Commission on Aging, is we investigate issues that our residents are dealing with, and come up with budget priorities that we'd like the county actually to put funds towards making happen. And one of the issues that has been on our plate for some time is the idea that houses are not designed for people to age in, apartments aren't designed for people to age in, and that we force younger families into big homes because of our permitting and NIMBY idea. We want, we want to make sure that the right people move into our neighborhood. So we make young couples and with a little bit of kids buy these enormous homes, and then if they decide to stay in that home, they get stuck. They can't afford to leave. They can't afford to keep it up. They can't physically manage a big house, and there's no place for them to go, because the smaller places are not necessarily designed any better, or they're in income restricted developments, or they're townhouses, the bane of my existence. And so what we wanted to do was force the county to acknowledge universal design strategies, adopt them as a standard for housing writ large, that whatever is in the pattern book to build a certain kind of house, that all developments recognize that not everybody can handle 3 stories or 4 stories, and that everybody doesn't need to have a 3-car garage. That really, first level master suites would be wonderful. And also to train people on universal design, to get the building trades involved, train them on universal design, builders, developers, architects, to start thinking about housing across the lifespan, and then perhaps creating a certification process that builders and architects can have to say that, yes, I've seen the light and I understand what universal design looks like, and then hopefully the market will come along with it. We think it will.
I think they'd be educating the public at the same time to
Right.
develop the market.
And the
Because
program-
honestly, you know, how many people go out and just buy small cars? I mean, you know, we keep trying to say let's build smaller cars because of, you know, all the benefits to it, and folks still want to go out and buy big cars. Same thing with houses. I think there's a lot of market out there. It's just that there's only so much space to build the big mansions.
Right.
There's a program called CAPS, C-A-P-S, that's a certification. A lot of interior designers get it, and contractors get it. And it's more for the folks who work in the aging in place sector of the business versus the overall, like, say you do larger community type development. And the tricky part I've always found in working in the aging in place market is the individual clients, because individual homeowners, it's harder because you're part occupational therapist, you're part social worker, and you're part architect, and then you're part trying to explain to them that why things cost as much as they do. So it's a very difficult thing on one-to-one homeowner process is what we've found. There is a University of Buffalo has a group called Ideas, and they created the universal design opportunity, and they called it a process instead of just only the accessibility physical part. They talk about it from the perspective of access. So access to socialization, access to services, amenities, and the physical environment. So it's one of my favorites. I can send you the information. It's Jordana Maisel is the woman who wrote the article with one of her colleagues. I've met her, we've done presentations together, and I just admired her approach because I thought it was just such a stronger approach. And then I do agree with the accessibility. The problem I have with HUD is that HUD limits it to 4% of the units that have to be accessible. And I'm like, that's crazy. No one can age in place in that. That's nuts. So I always try to, and people are like, well, it costs more to do. And I go, it doesn't. I said, I have one architect. She's literally forces like.
Think of other resources.
Mm-hmm.
That
Hello, JJ. Thanks for joining us. We can hear you. You're on mute if you're speaking. JJ, you live streaming us to YouTube? I hope not, because we're a breakout session. Be pretty for the camera. Okay. So, okay.
Getting back to like evidence-based
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I'm sure there's so many resources with that. Is that considered hyper local though? I mean, we have incredible research on the Capable program that Dr. Sarah Stanton has, actually has started here in Baltimore and then Maryland, but it's now, a program that's been replicated nationally, and it's sustainable. So I'm sure there's a lot of research on that, and, all the different stepping on for falls prevention. Capable is sort of a falls prevention too. But I don't understand. I mean, I'm just trying to get an idea of what you're thinking for resources.
I think, so I'm writing it down because what you're touching on is this. Our work is sort of systems recommendation on engaging hyperlocal organization on aging in place. So the subject matter is aging, but the strategies can be extracted from other type of work. So in that respect, we can review different reports and resources with a critical eye of looking at that component of the work. So it doesn't mean we're going to look at best practices for health promotion or whatever that may be, but we're going to say, oh, that's how they recommended we do outreach. And so I think it's this kind of adaptation of ideas. So in that respect, we have a pretty large swimming pool to swim in. We just need to be very careful about our time. And when we look at stuff, we need to have that critical mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know a lot of these pilots, you know, they're rooted in reaching out to grassroots organizations.
Yes.
And that's, they provide the seeds for this research to develop outcomes, and then the outcomes, you know, create, you know, the argument to get funding and have a, you know, program in place. Yeah. So I don't know, you need probably an action plan that, you know, maps a lot of this out. You know,
And you know, it's possible that what we're going to do, because this is, I feel that other disciplines have done a better job in engaging grassroots than the aging field. So one of our strategies could in fact be were you just taken out of your breakout and miraculously transported to this large session too?
Yes.
We were a little early. We got cut off, but yes.
Yeah,
we got
we did too. We
transported.
did too.
Sorry, that happened to all of us. Okay.
I have jet lag.
Whiplash. It's all good. It's 11:16. Okay. So let's wait until everybody joins us again. Think we have Chelsea, are you with us?
Yeah, sorry. It automatically put me on mute.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if this was a timed session or because usually it gives you a little warning. There's a few more minutes.
Yeah, I was still learning the functions of the breakout room. So I do apologize to everyone. I finally figured it out.
So how is it going to be next time we do?
So we will always break out 15 minutes before the close of the session because we all have to report out.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that because there's so much work, there's no way we could have finished. But we do need to have a little warning just to wrap up some thoughts and ideas. Okay.
I do apologize.
Chuck, what did you want to say? Chuck, we can hear you if you want to unmute yourself.
We're in the middle of deciding when our next meeting is when
Okay.
we were
All right.
amazingly transported.
Okay, so why don't we do it this way? We're going to do a little bit of reporting out of where things are at. The groups that do not have, can we send people back into the breakout session at least so that they can conclude the
Wrap it.
conversation around next meeting time, Chelsea? Would that be okay? Okay, so let's do a little bit of reporting. And if you want to have here's what I suggest. It's 11:17. Every group will do a little bit of 2-minute reports. And then we'll go back to our breakout to just wrap up some last minute, but we will not go back here again. So once we say goodbye, it will be a goodbye for now. Breakout will make the decisions. And then what we'll do is every lead send the kind of final conclusions and updates to Chelsea, Liz, and me. So we'll all be on the same page.
Does everyone have my email? Liz's email and Kazik's?
I'll put them in the chat again.
Yeah, and
Yep.
Chuck, please note you keep sending it to the wrong email. So use the one that Liz has used recently. All right,
Okay.
who wants to take a first stab in giving us a little bit of an update on what they talked about?
Oh, I thought we were going back into our breakout room.
No, we're just gonna do a little bit of check-in and then do a wrap-up at the end. So it's okay.
Catherine, give us a wrap.
Sure. Ours was the age-friendly group, building that out. And we had a really robust conversation in terms of the need for communication was certainly a large issue. We looked at what kind of group meetings that we could convene. We would love to have some more insight from Hank Greenberg with AARP and maybe someone from Administration for Community Living, because we have a lot of groups, nonprofits and federal partners that have done this kind of work and are doing it now. And let's see if we can all get on the same page for Maryland as we build this out. So there was a lot of great conversation about that. There were some strategies suggested in regards to the importance of having Maryland declared a age-friendly state, and then how we could bring that down into all the counties in Maryland as well. So lots of conversation about that, conversation about the importance of looking at the language that we're using, because there's lots of different language around this topic, and trying to get something that's going to fit Maryland and be just right for Maryland's master plan on aging, but also giving the nod to nonprofits and our federal partners, because there are many federal partners that are thinking about this, and also the opportunity to really collaborate among our state, on a state level, some of our state partners, to demonstrate what we're looking for each county to be involved with. But we figure if we started at the top, we'll be able to get that filtered down into the counties, because if we're talking to Department of Transportation, there's other, every county has a Department of Transportation, and we're really looking at how we can leverage these state partnerships and federal partnerships to build funding, because we certainly know mission and money always go together. But it was really
M&M.
It was a great group.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. Who wants to do the supporting local and federal agencies integrating government nonprofits?
I can take that. Thanks so much.
Mhm.
We talked about a number of pieces, but collaboration and better communication was key. We noted, especially because John and I both work for government and help oversee programs that don't often get known at the local level, trying to figure out how to help our local partners gain access to that information and do it sustainably, but also equitably. So we talked about trying to figure out where those gaps are in knowledge about programs and services that help folks stay safely in their communities, be prepared for aging. Talked about cultural brokers and about local experts. So trying to think of a two-way street between the information we might be advocating to provide locally, but also to be ready to hear what those gaps are locally, and to think of it as a partnership, which I think sometimes is lacking with local partners and state government.
I can take our group. We talked about engaging hyperlocal community-based organizations and had a very massive list of experts we want to invite. It's a very robust list, and we're also going to recognize that other subject matter experts may have good strategies that they've applied, whether it is emergency management, health promotion, and other such work that have already engaged community-based organizations. So we're going to look at some of that subject matter and apply, so extract some of the good strategies and apply it to the world of aging and longevity ready work. We have our next meeting set for this Thursday, and I think that's it for us. Lastly, who is the last group? Remind me. Last group, volunteers.
Kathy, do you want to report out, or Jane?
I got to find my notes. I'm sorry. It's Kathy here. We were talking about the fact of how our entities could work together, but then we hit these roadblocks because of aging limitations or that type of thing. So that was one strategy we came up with, was trying to figure out how to identify all the roadblocks that happen when we're trying to put age-friendly, building age-friendly interactions and such. Also from, let's see, a lot of why people move from places prematurely, and look at that from a larger perspective, and what types of things can change, again, so that we can build interaction between people during their lifespan without thinking they have to move because they might have a healthcare issue. Also about the issue of certifications for building developments where folks do have facilities that support their living in different with different accessibility. And I guess a lot of it has to do with, again, limitations that agencies put into place because of age or for funding. There was this whole issue at the end that I don't really know a lot of details on it, but that all houses should be accessible from the visitability idea. And so that's really kind of a, you know, kind of a catchy perspective. And that there are studies that really highlight this from about access to services, amenities, and accessibility.
I'm seeing some overlap between
universal design strategies for housing. That kind of undergirds a couple of those last things.
I think what we're going to do, I'm already hearing a couple of things that may overlap, either with another work group altogether on their work around housing. So it might be that you say, okay, maybe some of the recommendation we can like toss over to that side of the fence and then focus on things that are not in anybody else's purview. So as you begin to do this, what we're going to do, this is why these reconvening are really important, and for Liz and Chelsea to check in with other group and say, okay, you're not doing it, fine, stick with this plan, or they're working on the housing component, let's keep it there. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye now. Go back to your work groups and at least make sure you have the next meeting time set so that Chelsea and Liz can help set up a link for us. And we will reconvene in our large group again. Lordy me, I need to know the date, but I don't, but we will meet then. October 24th.
October 24th.
Thank you. So yeah, we have time, and it might be that in your next meeting, you'll say, wow, we can meet again before our third meeting. There's lots to do. We're on a roll. We're getting stuff done, and even meet twice before our next meeting if you can wing it. Because the more we have done early, the less stressed we're going to be. Maybe there's some really great people who want to join, but can't do it right now. We'll give them some time to join us, and so on and so forth. Okay, we're going to break out now. Much love to you all. Thank you so much.